pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vicki, did you want to roll call?
This isn't a town meeting.
We're going to have the fire marshal go over to safety.
The exits are here, there, and out the front door. I'd ask everybody to be respectful of both boards. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, so we're going to begin this evening by introducing Jim Bonesteel, our Rensselaer Plateau Alliance Executive Director. A few comments on when we start calling names, which are right, I'm going to take them right off the list. If you have a question, we're going to time you 3 minutes and then an answer. So try to make your questions as brief as possible. We've calculated out if we have everybody, it would be hours. So if we let you drag on with questions. So with that, Jim Bonesteel.
Thanks, Pierce. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks for having us. I want to thank Tom for hosting and opening up for the community, and thanks to the board for inviting us here. We're here because the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance purchased the Valentino Family Community Forest between Stubble Street and Foster Road. When we did that, we sent a letter out to the neighbors, letting them know about it and inviting them in to talk to us. And I know that came as a surprise. And I'm hoping that this conversation helps move us forward. And my personal hope is that as time goes by, we're going to build relationships and have some great relationships with us as neighbors here in town. So I want to introduce my staff. I've got staff and board members here from RPA, and I'll start with Annie Jacobs.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here and thanks for having us here. My name's Annie. I'm the communications director at RPA, and I do a lot of storytelling and writing, and because RPA, the conservation and the interaction with the environment, there's just a lot of amazing things that happen, kids out on the land, families, protecting clean air and water for the future, and so I find a lot of meaning in telling those stories, and excited about this project.
Okay. And Molly Freiberg.
Yeah, hi, I'm Molly. I'm the Community Engagement Manager. I'm also a social worker, and what I do at RPA is connect people to the land, so it's two things that are really important to me is keeping our community healthy, being able to use the resources that we have for our own wellness. And my favorite thing is just bringing out a Girl Scout troop or a senior center and being able to see people's faces light up when they get to see something new. So that's who I am.
See you, Cup.
Hello, I'm Celia. I'm happy to be here. My main job is to help young people get out on the land. I'm happy to see some young people here. Thanks for coming. And part of my love for that is when I was a kid, I grew up in Western New York between Rochester and Buffalo. And the school was not a great place for me. And I got to go out to the woods and go out to the farmlands. And that's where I got to feel alive and feel loved and feel like I belonged. So that's kind of why I'm here tonight, to help Valentino be a place for your young people to feel, if they're not already outside, they can be outside there.
And maybe I'll skip Lawrence and Jeff and introduce Nisani, who is an intern this year.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm an intern with RPA this year. And my favorite thing has been getting to know everyone and getting to see the impact that everyone's had on like young people, especially because that's more where my work has been this year. And I'm just really glad to be here and to, yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
Thanks.
And Lawrence Howard.
Yeah, I'm one of the board members of the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance. I'm one of the, I guess, original board members. It's been a long run already. I'm also an attorney. My office is in Averill Park, and I live on the plateau in Sand Lake. And you know, just believe in what RPA has been doing all these years, and I'm happy to answer any questions, you know, related to this project that anyone wants to know about.
And Jeff Briggs.
Hi, I'm Jeff Briggs. I'm a retired ecologist. I live in Post and Kill. Became interested in RPA when they had one of their community meetings on their regional conservation plan. Thought it was pretty amazing. Got involved with the Post and Kill Community Forest Committee. Worked on trails and so forth for that. Got appointed as the steward for that property, and then later was invited to join the board of directors. And I'm happy to be here tonight to tell you about my experiences with the community forest.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you and your staff for being here and participating. So we're going to start this off again for many of you. I'm Pierce Hoyt. I live in Grafton. I've been here about 45 years. I'm not a true native, but I've lived here quite a while and have enjoyed the natural beauty of Grafton and the Rensselaer Plateau, and certainly have an interest in it. Jeff Briggs. Where's Jeff? Oh, Jeff, you're on the top of this list.
Well, they asked me to sign in.
Okay, that's wonderful.
I don't have a question, but I'll be happy to answer.
Bill and Cindy Davies.
Yeah, we didn't put down any questions.
Okay, no questions? No, not really. Justin?
Maybe just go
Justin?
for each name.
Yeah, I will. Justin, he's got a big question. Yeah, there you go, Justin. Perfect. What's your last name?
Fletcher. I know my handwriting's got awful.
Flip the challenge.
Yeah. At least got the first name right though, so that's good. All right, so where to begin? Yeah. Well, I want to start off with, like, how you guys are all kind of saying, community this, community that, you want to bring community together. I don't understand how you guys are trying to get that goal when most of the community here doesn't really want this. You're actually driving the community apart, especially with Foster Road, because no one wants parking on Foster Road. You guys had the one event on Sunday. That already looked like a cluster for your very first event. Cars are already speeding by. There was already 2 that were doing over 35. You guys look like that cluster with the parking. So right there, it seems like that's already not a good idea. It was about 10 cars. You said that wouldn't really be that much increase in traffic on the road. That already, right there is an increase in traffic. More road maintenance. I mean, all that stuff is just adding on to what people don't want. People on Foster Road don't want it. People on Stuffle Street, they seem like they don't want this. What's the point I'm going now?
Well, thanks for,
Yeah, I'm
bringing
gonna
that
be
up.
writing stuff down just so we can keep track of it, but, don't worry, I will. My handwriting's better than yours, I think.
Mine, yeah, probably.
So what's the main thing there in what you said? There's a
Do
lot.
whatever you can to get the parking on Foster Road. That's our
Okay.
main goal for the people on Foster Road is we don't want the parking there.
Yes. You don't want parking. No.
Okay, well, note of that there are some of you that don't want parking there.
So if you guys, like, they're all of you said, like, you want to do this for a community, it's already causing issues in the local community.
So can I ask you you mentioned traffic, right? There's got to be traffic on the road already because there's 26 houses, right? So
You think you're increasing traffic.
okay. What we've found before, and this was done, studies were done by Creighton Manning Engineering, was that the increase of traffic for one of these would be the equivalent of a single-family home.
That was a lot more than a single-family home on Sunday.
Well, that was one.
You live on Foster Road?
And it already,
And you guys still live on Foster Road?
One at a time, please.
and it was already a cluster on Sunday, so like my concern is, if it was already that much of a cluster on Sunday, and that was with you there supervising, what's it gonna be like in the summer when a lot of people go there, the park closes and there's no one there to supervise?
Can you explain what you mean when you say a cluster? Because the people came in, we asked them to drive slowly on the way in.
Which you did.
There was no, okay. The ones I noticed.
I think the question is, what measures are you guys going to take to enforce a certain standard to prevent people from speeding and parking where they're supposed to?
Okay.
You said you weren't gonna have parking up top, that the parking was gonna be down.
Right.
Well, they're all up top.
And it
They
seemed like
did not park up top.
You struggled down the beginning because they were all parked up top. You were struggling to get them to go down the hill at first.
No.
There was people struggling to pull in when I was trying to pull my truck out.
So here's what happened. I showed up early so I could direct people in. And Donnie from across the road walked over to talk to me. And Zach walked up the road to talk to me. And when people came in, we had a conversation. People participated in the conversation. We all went down, every single car parked down at the log landing for the event. We were just there when we were talking and gathering.
Well, that wasn't until after you had to fix the whole cluster with everyone already parking up top. If you guys were saying when you out there, you should have put something out saying, park at the bottom of the hill, don't stop up top, if you're going to do something like that. That's on the,
I was just talking to these people before we went down. That's what it was.
That's my main point, is like your first event was already jumbled. How's it gonna be in the summer when there's no supervision there? Say you got 20 cars going down there in the summer going to look at the ponds.
Okay.
What are you gonna do? There's no one enforcing anything.
Yeah, one thing I'm writing down, because I think of one idea I hear in there is that, are there signs that could direct people to where the parking is so that there isn't that cluster mess up at the top?
Yeah, say if you put a speed limit sign on the end of the road, how many people listen to speed limit signs?
Well,
We've worked with neighbors at the other community for us on these things. When we're engaged in talking to them, we work on this stuff.
Well, it seems like when you engage with all the neighbors here, none of the neighbors want this to begin with.
Well, it's because we haven't really had a chance to get into a conversation, but
It's the beginning of it.
yeah.
Can I mention Albert Family Community Forest? Just along that road, their neighbors asked us to be extra careful. They were also concerned about traffic, and sort of we made sure that there was really good signage. The speed limit, I think, actually got reduced, so that there's a lot of signage around about what the speed limit is and why, and it's been pretty good since. So we definitely want to hear what you're saying about those concerns, and it helps us make sure that we are really proactively getting this conversation started about what kind of signs we do need, what kind of things we do need to tell other people who are coming into the place where you live.
Signs only do so much though. You put up signs, how many people actually read signs? You actually go 55 miles an hour on the Northway? Not many people do. Same thing with no littering signs. You got them all over the park. I go in the state park, I can probably find a ton of things of trash laying all over the place. And they got employees that actually go there and pick it up on a regular basis.
We also have speed bumps at the end,
Wow.
yeah, plates, right?
Just ask a question again.
We good?
I think so. I'll just say one other thing. We expect most of the traffic to go to Stuffle Street, and Foster Road would be used for, if we had a program or something like that, generally. Most people, I don't think, are going to be attracted to the Foster Road entrance because all the places they're going to want to visit are closer to Stuffle Street.
Okay, very good. Is there a Kim Colleen?
Yep. Hi, I'm Kim. I don't have any questions, I just have statements.
You got it.
So I'm Kim, I live on Foster Road, and we've been there for about 10 years. I know I'm probably prejudiced, but I think Foster Road is probably one of the nicest roads in Grafton. We have a quiet dead end with lots of great people. And we all picked this road to live on because of its beauty, its lack of traffic, and lack of noise. I'm certainly for keeping land conservation, but our fear is that having RPA there will increase our traffic, the noise, and the secluded feeling that we all enjoy. For those of you who don't know, Foster is a dead-end dirt road. It's about 1 mile long. Every day we have about 8 to 10 dedicated walkers on a daily basis. And I know that at 3:15 I'm going to see Bob and Charlene, and I'm going to be careful around every turn I come that I don't hit them. And at 11 o'clock, Peter's going to be out there walking. And then at night, Michelle and Marissa at 8 o'clock in the dark, I know that I have to watch out for them.
I'll pay you that for walking too.
Okay, sorry, Justin. There's about 20 dogs that live on our road and about 14 children who use the road for bicycles, ATVs, dirt bikes, and go-karts, because that's what kids in the country do. And we've always felt very comfortable with their safety from cars and strangers. And again, we just all fear that this is all going to change. You know, we have a nice community in a neighborhood. We watch out for each other. We know who belongs and who doesn't belong. This morning I was out in the yard and I saw a truck that I know doesn't, nobody lives on Foster Road. When they come down going 10 miles an hour, looking at everything, and then uses dead end and turns around and leaves. That's just weird. Now I know people don't like change and they don't like the unknowns, and I think this is why all our Foster Road residents are upset. You know, RPA has given some vague ideas of what they want to do, like, well, maybe we'll build one lean-to. Well, maybe there'll just be one camping trip a year, or maybe just one school trip. But I feel like unless things are more specific, then they can continue to just make more and more liberties and do whatever they choose. They say the traffic impact will be minimal, but what's kind of weird is on the website, they claim that their recreational area draws 300,000 visitors. So how can that be? So either it's not true what they're saying on the website, or maybe not true what they're saying to us. And it kind of just makes us feel like we might be deceived. Another concern, like Justin said, is just some wear and tear on a dirt road. Although Jared and the crew have done a great job over the past few years, it's still a dirt road. It's full of mud and ruts and potholes, and we really don't need more vehicles or buses there. And last of my concern, I know RPA is a nonprofit, doesn't pay town taxes, and in lieu, they said they would give the town some money. But why not pay school taxes? Jim stated at the last meeting that RPA has been offering educational programs to the kids in our school district. But I don't know about you guys, but my kids have been in the district since kindergarten and are now in high school, and we've never heard of an RPA program at our school. Rapid State Park, yes, and Dayton Pond, yes, but RPA, no. So it kind of feels like it's convenient to say things when they want our support, but then it kind of feels like some of the stuff may not be true. So anyway, in conclusion, I just had some requests of both RPA and the town. That would be no signage on Route 2 or on Old Road advertising that RPA is there for any folks that are looking for something to do. Hopefully no parking on the Foster Road entrance, and maybe if so, only for special events. No camping overnight or hunting. I'm not sure how they could ever control how many people come at a time, how many hunters at a time could be there, because I know in our past 10 years living here, hunters are always looking and scoping out vacant land and places to go. And if there's nobody there kind of watching, how do you know who's going to be there and who's hunting and who's not hunting? Also, it would be nice if maybe the town could help with some road signs for 20 mile-an-hour speed limit, and maybe a dead-end sign, because both of ours have fallen down. Dead-end sign or no outlet sign, so people aren't just driving over the dead end all the time. And that's about it. Thank you for listening.
Before we go on, thank you, Kim. I can feel how you really are concerned about this stuff. And if you could, Kim, some of the requests that you have in there, I assume you have that on the computer. If you could share some of those with us so that we can keep track of them, please.
Well, you said no signage on Route 2, and what was the other?
Old Road.
Old Road. Great, thank you.
The folks on Hayes Road in East Nassau asked that we now put a sign out on Route 66 directing people in, because because they don't want passersby to just say, oh, what is this, and go in. So we've respected that and worked with them there.
Okay. Lori, is there any done?
If there's a sign up, you guys that sign in. But, since I've been called, I do have a question.
There you go.
So I'm with the ambulance, and we have had calls down at the Stuffle Street. The last time at the town meeting, you said you guys maintain the roads and all that, and the trails going in. So we have a brand new ambulance. There is zero chance in hell I'm gonna drive that all the way up in there. So therefore, now we have to call the fire department in. So now you got two volunteer companies that are there. We have to get the Argo in there. The trails are terribly marked. They're not wide enough to even get the Argo in. Myself, I had to walk over 2 miles to try and find some woman. If we knew where she was, it was about a half a mile. So, and we were there for over 3 hours. You know, so now, you know, now you're taking away from the rest of the town for this. And also too, my wife and I, we're avid hikers. Since the beginning of the year, we've walked over 40 miles up in the State Park Trail, and since the pandemic starts, there's been a ton of people up there. All walks of life, it's there, use it, it's fantastic. Except for the fact that they're leaving garbage, they leave their dog droppings everywhere. There's water bottles, face masks. They don't respect the nature that's here. And you know, this is our backyard. And I don't live on that road, but what do these people who do live on that road, what's in it for them? They're the ones that have to deal with this day in, day out. I mean, you know, pave the road, something. You know, I also work for the town, so now we got to maintain this road even more. You know, and now you got a bunch of people are paying taxes in this town, and you got a bunch of out-of-towners coming up here that are just, they're tearing up the road, they leave the garbage, they don't respect it. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but now that, you know, the park has been at half capacity this year, so now that as soon as word gets out that there's other places where they could go, now these people are gonna leave the park and go up there. You know, and once again, it is just not fair to the people on these roads.
Well, thank you. There was a lot there. Start with the ambulance. I've been a member of Steventown Fire for years. I've been out in the woods. You know, it is something we do. You know,
and that's
and
what we signed up to do.
Right. So I understand that. We want to work. If you talk to the folks in Posenkill or Hogues, we've had them out and develop plans on our land. The property at the end of the road is a little bit different. It was a property that we bought with the express purpose to sell to DEC. So they own that now. We never managed that as a community forest the way we're going to do this one. We're going to be much more hands-on with this property than that one. So that's one thing. Bill, you know, I found out about that rescue, if you'll call it, up there after the fact. So if we find out about them, we'll try to, you know, work with you folks and improve that. And we will make a plan to have the fire department and the ambulance out and figure, you know, have plans for, you know, maps of where to go and things like that for you. The second part was garbage. Jeff, you want to talk about like garbage that we've seen at the, you know, Barberville and Posenkill?
About 4,000 visitors a year at Post and Kill. And I've never had to pick up any garbage, and there isn't garbage along the road.
Did you say 4,000 visitors?
Pardon me?
Did you say 4,000?
4,000 visitors a year.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We also have 17,000 at Barberville Falls.
Which
And I've picked up 2 masks there in the last 2 years, so. People who come out to these properties come out for the right reasons. And we haven't had trouble with garbage along the roads or in the properties themselves. People who come out, usually if they see anything, they pick it up and bring it out with them. One of the things that we do each year is to try to find some of the old farm dumps and try to remove some of that trash so that it becomes a little less obvious, because all these old properties have little farm dumps on them because they used to have little farms all over them. So anyway, that's my experience.
And as far as just,
But the problem is with all these other facilities that you're talking, does not have a state park right next to it. Okay,
Well,
and I'm sorry, if you don't believe me, I'll take you for a hike anytime up around the state park, and there's garbage everywhere. My wife and I have many times brought garbage bags up just to clean it up.
got it. I've heard that before, and what I can say is we'll be responsive to that if it comes up. And so the other thing you mentioned was what's in it for the folks on the road. Andy, did you talk to the Piazzas?
Yeah, so I called her, she was in the middle of the meeting, but I have a note from her that I'll read. So this was a family that lives at the Posting Hill, on the road of the Posting Hill Community Forest. Sorry. So in our first community forest that was established in 2015, I think.
2014 we bought it. This is really established in 2015.
Okay, so the Posting Hill Community Forest, the neighbors on that road, Legenbauer Road, had a lot of the same feelings that are coming up here. And a particular couple who lives there who was concerned, they since the community forest coming in, they feel differently about it, and this is what they had to say. We love having the Posting Hill Community Forest up the road from us. It brings us joy to see others drive up Legenbauer Road to the community forest, as we know the natural treasures they will experience. We have met others who have visited this community forest, and they remark at its unique geography and well-maintained trails. As each season unfolds, we continue to give thanks to the dedication of the community forest members who have made this protected site possible. So it's really become something that they feel proud of and connected to.
And I hope it does too. I really do. I'm always looking for other trails to walk, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's, the people that live on these roads are the ones that are really being impacted.
It's gotta be done right.
Since we appear to be.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Where's that gonna count against my 3 minutes?
Are you gonna speak tonight?
Yes, but I can't do it in 3 minutes and go back and rebut.
No, I know.
If we have rebuttal that's more than 3 minutes long.
Yeah, I say yes, but hold on.
Very short.
I just have a very short rebuttal as well. I didn't plan on speaking, I plan on letting them, but I live on Blue Factory Road. So the end of my street, and I'm speaking as a citizen now, not as a board member. The end of my street is the Posting Hill, your guys' stuff. There's garbage there. People dump there. You guys saying that it's not is not true. I was there today. I was there 2 weeks ago. I know people that have dumped stuff there.
Are you saying
So-
on Legenbauer Road?
No, I'm talking about the one at the bottom of Blue. You guys have a parking lot on Blue Factory, on my street. And yeah, and people use it all the time. There's a towel that's been stuck to the ground over there for over a month now, frozen to the ground. So it bothers me when I hear you guys talking about kumbaya, and then to the townspeople that elected me to represent them, and it's just not a 100% truthful statement. Like, Grafton gets hammered with garbage all the time because we aren't Posting Hill, we aren't Nassau, we're Grafton. We got screwed on a state park 30 years ago. And now, a lot of people feel they're getting screwed again.
Yeah.
And, sorry, that, I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. All right, go ahead.
There could be a towel there, I'm sure. And I know Jeff didn't say this, but I'll find times when there'll be something that somebody's dropped out of their car and their car doors open and stuff. And there was somebody that dumped something in the creek near there, but, you know, that wasn't our property, it was nearby. I don't know about, like, lots of frontage. So,
The only very quick thing I want to say is we keep hearing about the other two properties. They are very much different than this property. This property has two large water areas on it where people are going to be coming for those particularly. And there's also 61 houses surrounding this property. This is only 5 to 10.
Is it Philip Liebner?
I guess my question for you is, I have an implant up here. I only been up here for 8 years. I grew up in Angel Park. And my wife grew up here her whole life. She takes my 2-year-old daughter in a stroller and my 4-year-old son and our German Shepherd down Foster's Road. Now I know Lenny sees my kids and everybody else. My brother lives on that road. You guys sit there and say that people don't fly on that road, that don't belong there. They do. I caught someone last week flying on that road going to your property.
Yes.
And don't tell me that there's not garbage all over the place, because I'm not going to say where I work, but I've talked to people that you say Leichenbauer Road, they're all happy, and this one's all happy. They don't want you there either. You took over a bunch of property. You guys don't want to live here. And you're up there saying, oh, there's no garbage, there's no this. So how are you going to keep my kids safe and my dog safe going down that road? It ain't my job to police that road. So who's going to do it? You guys want it, so who's going to stay up there and do it all down? Take turns. What are you going to do at night when something's going on down there? Because if you don't think that's not going to happen, you're crazy. You have no answer for it. You just keep shrugging your shoulders. You don't care. You don't live there. I don't live on Foster's. I live on Old Road, and I see this going on. How are you going to police it? How are you going to make sure people that belong there are safe or not going to get hit? Have you actually walked that road and seen all the turns and how it twists and turns? The blind spots? No.
I think, well, one important point is that the ponds and the features that someone mentioned, those are all closer to Stuffle Street, so the Foster Road parking is not going to be the attraction that like Barberville Falls has one parking area and people are going there because they want to walk down to the falls. And so there are a lot of cars that end up in that parking lot at once. It's,
Your one guy just said there's 14,000 visitors or 7,000 visitors, and you're telling me it's equivalent to a one-family house that'll go down that road. Well, I'm a one family, I have 2 cars. So if you have 20 people go down that road, let's say there's 2 per car, it's 10 cars.
but if people who are going for a hike with their family on the weekend, they're much more likely to use the Stuffle Street parking area, whereas the Foster Road would be for events that we would be at during the day. So it wouldn't be sort of a free-for-all.
If any of you guys have gone on the end of where Foster's and the Old Road meets and looked at the line of sight, there ain't much there. Well, how are you going to protect people from getting hit? There's no, you guys just bought a piece of property and said, oh wow, I can hike now, I can do this. You don't want to live there. You guys are all over everywhere else. So you can sit there and say there's no garbage, you can sit there and say the neighbors are all happy in different areas. It's not true. I know all these people on all these roads that you guys bought on. So, you can shrug your shoulders, but there's no answer to keep any of my kids safe or anybody else's safe.
So I'd like to jump in here, because you guys see, you can take my name off for the 3 minutes, Chris Valeni. I live on Stoffel Street. And everybody wants to talk about Foster's Road, and I have the same complaints. And you're telling me that the majority of these people are going to come up my road now. And I've been living there for plenty long enough before you bought the end of the road. So I knew what the traffic was like, because I'm almost to the end of the road. I'm a mile and a half up. Since you bought the end of the road, we've had more traffic on that road than ever before. And now you're going to put another piece in there and increase the traffic even more, Jared's been doing a phenomenal job the past 2 years trying to keep on top of that road. And the crew that he has with him have been doing a phenomenal job. But the minute that grader goes up there, everybody on my road knows how to drive on it after it's been graded. Nobody else does. So 2-3 days later, it's the same muddy muck mess and rutted up potholed road again. And you're going to send even more people up there now that don't know how to drive, that don't respect speed limits, that come flying past my house, and the farther you go up Stuffle Street, the narrower it gets. And you want to talk about blind turns. The number of times I've almost been put in a ditch, or my wife's been put in a ditch with our son in the vehicle because somebody wants to come down that road at 50 miles an hour is ridiculous. And now you're going to send more people up there. What have you done to help maintain that road? Nothing. Have you given back any money to Grafton to put into that road maintenance? Have you given a single dime to Grafton to help maintain that road?
Well, we paid, I won't throw out a number because you guys are going to look it up and tell me I'm wrong. But
now you're saying you're going to increase by a one-family household. It's 14,000 people. There's way more road traffic than a one-family household. So don't keep saying that, because that number, whoever you got that from, they need to recalculate, because I'm a one family. I have 2 vehicles. You can't tell me there's only going to be 2 more vehicles on my road because of this. You can't. On a given Sunday, I'll see 300-400 different vehicles up Stuffle Street. So don't tell me it's nonstop all day long on a Saturday, Sunday when the weather gets nice. It was never like that. And the majority of them are speeding. And I already had a conversation with Steve about this because I'm tired of people flying up and down the road.
Well, I guess we'll have to look into that and see.
Right, yeah, no, but he's talking about.
So don't think it's just Foster's that's not happy with this. It's Stuffle as well.
Yeah.
But we bought it.
Thanks.
And road maintenance.
I do want to say that on that property at the end of the road, we've paid a lot of taxes for the years that we held it, and DEC is continuing to pay the taxes. So we have paid into the town to maintain it. And I just wanted to say, to the last speaker, if I'm shrugging my shoulders, I'm sorry about that. It's really me up here in front of all of you people and trying to take it in. And if my body language is like that, it's not because I don't care. I do care about what you're saying.
It doesn't seem it. It does not seem that way.
Can I ask just also one clarifying question? Because the property at the end of the road that you're talking about, it doesn't have a community committee on it, right?
No.
And this one does. So I just want to,
Regardless, you guys.
I understand, totally. Like all of what you're sharing is legit.
Plateau buying it, it wouldn't have ever increased the traffic.
Well, we don't know what development would have gone on there. But
regardless, it still increased it.
I think there's also something just to say is like the RPA is also a community committee, which some people can be on here to help answer some of these questions.
At what point do you involve the community? Is it before you start all this luxurious planning and put it in place? Or are you going to start involving the community at some point in the near future so we can actually have a voice on how this is developed? The roads, the security, everything that goes into this that we're all, sorry for my language, pissed off about.
Yeah.
What point do we involve the community and you start having the representatives sit on the board and the panel to be a part of these discussions? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people here that would want to.
Yeah, so that's what the letter that we sent in January was, an invitation to come and join us on that committee. And a few of you have.
And I think some people never got the letter. We never got the letter. Yeah, just people
Well,
never got the letter.
there were some letters that came back with the yellow sticky saying they couldn't
I don't
go.
care what color it is. Some people
Well,
didn't get the letter.
what I'm trying to say is The way we sent those letters is
Are
we
we
went
going
into
by
the.
the list, or we just shout out?
We went into the geographic information systems, the GIS, and we used the county tax rolls, and we sent the letters to those properties, the address that was in there. Some of those addresses didn't get delivered, the post office kicked them back. But we did do a radius around the land. We tried to get letters to everybody.
Yeah. and
Joelaine.
The function is for
You're up.
all neighbors to be invited to join the committee.
I'd like to state that I used to hike. I hiked many of the high peaks. And if I was to hike today, I probably would have one of the ambulances coming to get me. And I agree, is it Fred on the end?
Jeff.
Jeff, I agree with you. People that hike are bark eaters, they're not litter bugs. And when I was hiking up in the Adirondacks, I didn't see any litter. I think that the people that find in litter are next door to the park or connected with the park. I lived on Shaver Pond Road for many years. That bordered the state park. There's a parking lot on that, and there's a parking lot that isn't supposed to be a parking lot at the end. Those were plugged up with people walking state park trails. State park, I don't want to paint with a wide brush here. The patronage at the state park are generally undesirable neighbors. They do litter. They do create problems. I lived on a dirt road, Shaver Pond Road. People fly up and down the road. People fly up and down any dirt road in Grafton. I've been a member of the ambulance for many years. I picked up many people off of dirt roads that just don't drive the speed limit. The only people that drive the speed limit are the people that live on it. As I say, I used to hike quite a bit. And I had an app on my phone for many years. It's called All Trails, okay? And there's two maps here from All Trails that show the maps on your property, that show the trails on your property. This didn't happen yesterday. So where the hell are where are all these people going to come that are going to hike your trails? It's not, I think we're jumping to conclusions, jumping to things that we don't need to be worried about yet. As far as the ambulance and fire department having to drag people off trails, yes, I've been there, done that. How many miles of state park trails are there? Are we worried about them? Getting people off of them? It doesn't seem it. It just seems we're worried about the new kid on the block. Pierce, how many miles of trails do you have?
7.
How many people, and there is 11.
11. Sorry.
There's 11, and I think it's also 11, the listed trails on your property. One is 6 and one is 4. Point something. It's also 11 miles. Are you inundated with people walking the trails? Do people on that road complain about people driving fast up and down the roads and littering?
Well, they do drive fast, that's for
They
sure.
do.
They
They
definitely
drive
do.
fast
They
on
don't
the road.
respect the actual road, the width of the road. You know, it's a town road. It's well-maintained.
And the other thing I want to say is we're worried about taxes. You got a lot of property surrounding Dyken Pond that's been bought up by the Friends of Dyken Pond, and they pay nothing.
Not true.
It is true. I got the tax roll right here. You want to see it? I have the tax roll.
No, we don't, I'm the president of Friends of Dyken Pond. We don't pay taxes, you're right. We're nonprofit.
So
But
you
we
give us
do
a
make
contribution.
a payment in lieu of taxes every year to the town.
All right. It's the same thing with these people. They're going to give us a payment in lieu of taxes,
No,
and in some parts
they're
of it,
different.
they're going to
They
pay
pay
the property tax.
We're worried about, I heard the town board's workshop meeting, worried about traffic on Route 2. For God's sakes, I'm more worried about those 22-wheel dump trucks going up and down the road at 10 miles an hour, spewing dust, dirt, and rocks, and making a slime road out of Route 2. Slime, mud, dirt, and we say beauty's all around us, but we're worried about a couple extra cars coming out for people to hike trails. I don't get it. I can see, I don't want nobody, you know, I lived for years along the road with the state park next to me. I didn't enjoy it.
All right, that's time, Joe.
Joe. Is it Peter? Peter?
Yeah, right here.
Where?
There.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Colleen already.
That's your son.
Yeah, and Colleen, she did a good job. She already, a lot of the questions that she asked, I was asked. So, I'm fine. I'm good.
You okay, Peter?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Other than bad team, Jack, he's doing good.
Is that Peter too? Are you behind Joey?
Tom Kiley?
I just signed in. I just signed in.
Just signed in? John Munn,
Yeah,
you up?
I'm trying to address it from the standpoint, I'm on the board of the Rensselaer Land Trust. We are a different land trust than the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance. We have property, and we are a tax exempt organization, and we have property and we have easements. The properties we have, many of the properties are open to the public for hiking and walking. We have parking in some of them for about 10 cars. One of the properties is located in Troy. Another property is located in Steventown. There's one in Sand Lake. We don't have a problem with litter. We really don't. The problem we do have at some of the parcels was that they were being, with COVID, they were being used quite a bit. People came in and the parking lots were filled. So we had to expand one of the parking lots by a few spaces. One of the neighbors wanted no parking signs, and the road looks like shit because there's always no parking signs along the road. Previously, it was, you know, every 100 feet there's a no parking sign. But you know, people don't park there. They don't really use the road because 95% of the time there's plenty of parking, and probably the 5% of the time you've got a car that might be parked on the side of the road where it is not blocking traffic anyway. So I don't know what the big deal is with people parking on the side of the road. We all do it. We all visit our families. We park on the side of the road when we visit people. We do it. You know, I don't know what the big deal is about parking. Now, ironically, I look at the map. Now, Jim, forgive me, but you really haven't explained what your plan is. So I think people are still here, kind of like wondering, well, what are you going to do? We really haven't described it yet, and the vision hasn't been presented. But I do see, ironically, that this parcel was broken up. It was obviously a much bigger piece at one time. Parcels were carved off at the roadside. And flag lot, not flag lots, we have a lot of strips off of what was obviously a larger parcel at one time, leaving this very awkwardly shaped piece. And oddly enough, we have one piece that stands out and goes onto Foster Road. Why was that there? That was there to provide access into this parcel. It was specifically left behind because if that lot didn't extend out onto Foster Road, the parcel would have not had any frontage on Foster Road. Now, the other thing is I also look at your limited parking on Stoffel Street, and I'm wondering too, with all the people complaining about parking and driving on Stoffel Street, is there a possibility that some additional land could be purchased from one of the neighbors on the furthest west end of your property to put parking in at that location so that you could end up having the bulk of your parking down on the bottom of Stoffel Street before people drive the entire length and pass by all the houses? So I'm just looking and brainstorming. I don't know the answers. You don't have to address them. Throw them out to you for consideration. But I'll tell you, we don't have any problems with litter on our parcels for the land trust. We really don't have problems with parking. We put it in, and the parking is off the road. It's in fact one of our site in Troy. It's actually cleaner now than it was when we took it over, because when we got the parcel, it's along the Landskill Creek at the bottom of Pauling and what's it?
Linden Avenue.
Where Vanderheiden Hall, down the bottom by Vanderheiden Hall, where that used to be. That used to be a place where kids used to hang out. It was litter strewn. We took it over, we cleaned it up, we've been putting trails in, and the community around it, which is all residential homes on probably 35 by 70, 80-foot lots. The people in that neighborhood are using the parcel. They're walking their dogs there. Yeah, the dogs shit on the trails. But you know what? Bears shit in the woods, and I don't really give a shit either. It is what happens. Sorry, am I out of time?
You're out of time.
One thing about the roads in the town of Grafton is that you can park on any road in the town of Grafton along the side. That's a law. Illegal.
Okay.
And the lot on Foster Road was a building lot.
Correct.
Made in that development. That wasn't part of the original.
How do they
That's
get
right.
included?
I will,
Because
okay.
Oh, I just wanted to respond about not really knowing what Jim's plan is. We have this map here tonight. There's,
Call it, bud.
yeah, well, I'm just saying that you were asking about how do we join this committee? There are going to be decisions made and people haven't been invited. And that would be my concern too. When I have lived in neighborhoods, I lived in East Nassau, I wanted to know what was going on and I wanted to be part of the decision making. So anybody we've invited people at the previous meetings to come and join us and talk about what you want to see on this map and what kind of trails, what kind of usage, and so that everybody's voice can be heard. So if you haven't felt invited yet, please consider this an invitation to be part of making these decisions. That's also why we're here today, writing everything down. If you want to be in touch and email and tell us specifically, I heard today, like, why don't we help pave the road? Why don't we help meet with the emergency responders? We need to hear this kind of stuff. Why don't we post signs? How are you gonna, we need to know it. So if you haven't felt invited yet, please do feel invited now to come and be on that committee and decide what's gonna be on this map. Yeah.
I just want to make one.
I just wanted to ask how many people can be on the committee?
Well, I mean, if people want to be on the committee, we'll.
They're on it.
Yeah.
Well,
Never been. There's never been.
Well, I'm
it
just saying,
tends
if
to
you get 20
self-regulate. If
people,
it's too big, then it would give them.
if you get 20 people that all join the committee and say, hey, we vote to not have parking, are you guys gonna say, well, too bad, we're doing it anyway, even though you're on the committee?
That's the case, I'll join the committee.
You should join the committee.
Like, is that, like, does the committee actually have the power to not have parking if they don't want parking there?
I could tell a story. I mean, the committees do have power. I think it's not just.
Is the committee made up within your bylaws, and do they have any ability in writing votes and voting rights?
I don't know that answer, but I do know that I sat on the Albert Family Community Forest Committee in East Nassau, and that committee would have debates, really respectful debates, because we all cared about living there. And there were people who were doing different things on the property and had different interests.
But your bylaws have to be set up to have committees with voting.
We decided one area that was going to just be quiet, all wildlife management, no trails over on that side. But that was like a 3-hour conversation. So if anybody has the stamina for something like that, yeah, like we're going to join the committee. But yeah, we do make decisions in the committee. But they have to be also, it's like a conversation. It's going to be everybody's voices together. So, yeah, with decisions, made by, you know, helping with ecologists or people who study things. So we're gonna say like, that's gonna maybe have too much impact on a trail, and that's gonna really change what things look around here. So like, it helps to have input from people who live in the town who care about it. And then we have other experts who can come in and say, you know, if you really love the wildlife here, we have to make sure, we have to consider these specific things. Or if you really like the way this is and we want to keep it, then we need to make sure we manage it this way. So it's like adding experts who are experts in being on the town, experts because we've lived here for a long time, and then other areas where we need to kind of come down more and fill out a picture.
Who has the final say on the decisions, though?
I don't know.
Executive manager, bylaws state otherwise.
I mean, the RPA board has the final decision, really.
So the committee's opinion doesn't matter?
The board has never, like, not going along with the committee decision so far. So, yeah. Before I forget, I do want to say that the idea of buying more land, we don't only buy land if it's for sale. We're never going to, like, you know, so that's, this property was on the market for a year, and we bought it. Someone else could have bought it. So we're not going to be buying land unless someone says, hey, we've got this land for you to sell. So, you know, somebody wants to sell us land that we can put parking on, fine, but we're not going to go looking for that.
I'm going to say we've been into this an hour. We still have quite a few more people to speak. So let's do it.
Yeah, so, yes.
If you move forward with this after hearing everyone here, especially for the parking on Foster Road, then that is not being respectful and that is not showing you care.
Well, I guess the way I respond to that is that, you know, there are some people, there's at least one, I don't know, I don't see him in the room, but there is a neighbor on Foster Road that is supportive of it.
Really?
Would like it
Yeah,
more.
he wants to sign
He no longer lives there.
We can buy land on a dead-end road to have.
Sure. I don't know if I want to name names if he's not here, but he's right across the road from me. So, but the thing, the one reason we want the parking on Foster Road is so that we can have events. That sometimes we have a person in, Tom Wessels, he does this reading the forested landscape. He brings a group out, he looks at the land the way it is, and he can read the history. People love that. But we might have 30 people sign up for that.
But
you know,
again,
we might,
if you, knowing how much we do not want this on our road, and you continue to move forward with that, you're not being respectful. And you're not, you know, like I said, you're not showing that you care at all. If you just continue to do this.
How would it feel if it was, if the parking was for an event like that happens once a year, and another one that happens?
it might be more often than once a year.
Yeah, that specific one is once a year, but
I wouldn't even want to see it once a year. Like I said, we didn't buy property on a dead-end road to now have 15, 20 plus cars, strangers going in and out, buses going in and out. That's not why I bought property on a dead-end road. And like I said, you're going to move forward and you're going to do this anyway, obviously. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I hate to say it, but we're not going to make it pleasant for people coming out there and parking on our street. And you knowing that shows that you don't care.
I mean, I don't know, yeah. I mean,
Next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Moving on.
Well, you want to respond to her?
I think we want to show that we care. I think we want to be good neighbors. We want to show we care. And I hear you, and I think we're right at the beginning of our relationship. I'm not sure what else to say.
It's not gonna be a relationship, like I'm saying, we're not gonna make it pleasant. I hate to take it out on innocent people, but again, if you continue to do this, then that's showing that you don't care. If you continue to put the parking on Foster Road. It's very clear here that we do not want the parking on Foster Road.
Put it in your background.
Okay, next question. Thank you. John Raymond?
Hi, I live on Old Road, and a lot of my friends live on all these other roads that are connecting, and we love our community. You know, I'm a volunteer fireman. I like the guys I work with, you know, and we do it because it's community service and we give back to the community. And there's a lot of people in this community that are like that, all right? And we care about this place. Bringing this in here is creating problems. I hope you address most of them. I have a concern with emergency services. I'm looking at your 2018 expense account, and you got $308,000 in there. I don't know what your more recent numbers are. That's a lot of money. And then we also have, according to your literature, 7 municipalities in eastern Rensselaer County. That's quite a bit also. So my question is two parts. First of all, what have you done to help the communities that you impact, be it fire and emergency services, okay? And if you can give me some examples of that. And because you're a tax exempt organization, what is your ideas on how to support the services that you're going to need, which is approximately, at this time, the state park, we get approximately 50 EMS and fire calls a year. You know what we get for that? This, a big goose egg, okay? We get calls for the stupidest things, and there's a lot of stupid people out there, okay? But when you go hiking and you are totally unprepared and you're in very poor condition and you get stuck out in the woods, we have to come and pick you up or your people up, okay? So this is a concern. I'll leave you with those two things. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your service too.
We've talked about that, and you know, we do connect with the emergency services, and you know, if we have calls, we'll come back and help. So,
all right. What about this? What about the?
I don't want to give specifics.
We're paying the pilot, which goes to.
We're paying the pilot.
Yeah, we are. We're not the state. We are not paying zero. We are paying the same amount of taxes that property would pay to the town and the town services, not to the county and not to the school. But the town is receiving the same amount of money it would be if it were owned by private, unless it were developed with a bunch of houses, of course, which would be a totally different situation.
And what kind of coordinations have you done with the EMS services, fire in the other communities
so we had,
that you're impacting?
In Post and Kill, we had them out to both Barberville and to the Post and Kill Community Forest, and did a whole plan, and we did the same thing with Hoax Corners down in East Nassau.
And right from the beginning, as we started developing our trails, we were using existing logging trails as sort of the backbone of the trail system on Post and Kill. And we developed our trails with the idea that they would be accessible to four-wheel drive, at least a pickup, throughout most of the forest. It doesn't go out everywhere, but it gets you within a quarter mile of any place on our property. And that map, we then left a copy of it with the fire folks in Post-and-Kill, and they've been out to the site. We've had that property 6 years, and we had one incident where the sun was setting, and like you said, people get scared. A coyote howled, she called 911. She was only about 300 yards into the forest, but the fire service came out and took care of her. But most of the people, as I said, that come out there are people looking for a hiking experience, and they know what they're doing. If they're the first time out, we've got maps. We have a map at the kiosk, and we have fold maps, trifold maps also. So we work with the EMS folks with maps, and actually Post-and-Kill did I'm not sure what they call it, but they came out and did a drill of how to get somebody out of a gorge at Barberville Falls. So, and they also have done one rescue at Barberville Falls.
So we probably should be careful with time too, with our responses.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Steve Jackson? Steve?
My name's Steve Jackson. I don't know if any of you know who I am, but I am the local state forest ranger for Rensselaer County. I live in Pittstown. I do not live on Foster Road. I do not live on Stuffle Street. Some of you I've talked to, Chris, and I've talked to you. I've driven down Foster Road a few times. I drive down Stuffle Street pretty regularly now that we own the property. I just wanted to say, as far as emergency services go, I just wanted to throw that comment out there real quick, that there's never an incident on the forest where you're going to be able to drive an ambulance to somebody out on a trail. Okay? There's going to be hazards in the way, and I say this because I've been on multiple rescues in the high peaks and in the Catskills. Guess what? You can't drive up those trails. You got to hike to them, and that's how you get them out. I say this to any emergency services people in the room. State forest rangers are there. We're there for a reason. If you have somebody injured in the woods, give us a call. We know how to get people out safely. State taxes pays for us. Okay. As far as the properties go, I did have one question for you guys. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever gauged this or not, but what kind of traffic are you seeing on your other community forests? I know a lot of people, the biggest complaint has been traffic. Oh my God, we're going to have so much more traffic if we have more land for public access. There's a lot of public land around these two roads. You have Pittstown State Forest, you have Grafton State Park. A lot of public land. This is how many acres off of Stuffle Street? Like I said,
Almost 4.
Yeah, it's 396.
Yeah. Okay. Compared to 2,000 in Pittstown and however many that are in Grafton.
2,600.
So I'm only saying this because I drive down Stuffle Street pretty regularly. I'm in there pretty regularly, almost every other day. All right. I don't see, this is just me personally, and this is why I'm leaving this question up to you guys, but I've only seen hands full of cars, 2 at most at a time. Minus the exception of hunting season. 2 at a time, maybe during the week, and on the weekends, maybe 3 or 4. Okay? The most I've ever seen in that parking lot was 15 to 20 side-by-sides and dirt bikes that were having a party in the parking lot. And that was when we didn't own them. That was when RPA owned them. Okay? That's locals. That's not the people that are coming in to use this property properly. Okay? So I'll leave it up to you guys, but have you ever gauged how much traffic you guys are seeing versus during the week versus the weekend on your community forest? Gauge that on your parking lot. If you can comment on that.
Yeah, I think, just quick, Jeff.
Yeah.
The summer days, you know.
Yeah, we got, in the spring, we probably average 16 per day. Summer, 18 per day, and fall, 14 per day, and winter, 8 per day.
Now, is this for all properties? Because
That's for the Post-and-Kill property.
Okay. Because Barbersville Falls is kind of an outlier. with-
It's an outlier, that's a huge,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that, there's a total of 4,000, about 4,000 per year at that rate.
Let me just tack on to that, and you can Google this, but we've had professional engineers do this. Average household is between 10 and 20 trips per day, 365 days a year. That's over 4,000 trips per household.
That's not all properties.
I'm just saying, as a comparison, the single household, this is the traffic engineer's number, between 10 and 20, so even if you use 10, right, that's 3,650 trips a day. I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm telling you what the numbers are. That's the numbers that are provided to us by the professionals. So,
I'd rather have neighbors than strangers.
Yes, numbers of cars are below. I just asked the ranger one question.
People, I think.
This is called, respond to multiple fires.
No, I was never called. But if I was, I would be, for sure. You guys should call us, we are the lead for,
We did.
wildfire.
We did, and
When was this?
It doesn't matter.
a couple of years ago, multiple fires, even the fire department stopped coming.
Okay.
And DEC did not come. I work for the state, and even we had to go around and work it through the county health department. And one of the rangers actually had to go down and threaten gun them because of all the multiple fires we've had down there.
Okay.
So I was just curious.
Before my time.
Yeah.
Again, we're lead agency for any type of wildfire in the state, so if there's any type of fire emergency, anywhere on Stoughton Street or Foster Road, we're in.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Mark G.
Pilot. Could you give us the details of your proposed pilot to the town? And have you put pen to paper with those details and turned it over to the board? Why do you call the parking lot on Foster Road a limited use parking lot? And how are you going to limit that use? Creighton Manning, can you please bring that report to the first planning board meeting?
we might have to get a new one for this forest. These are the ones from the other ones, so we're gonna have to get a new one, but we will get one for you.
So you're gonna hire them again and have them do a new updated report, and it'll be available at one.
Traffic determination letter. Yeah.
How do you know how many visitors you have at the other parcels per year?
Okay, so should I start with the first question?
Pilot, please.
We looked at what the town portion was, and we're gonna pay the equivalent, which is around $1,000 a year.
Town, fire?
Yes, the local taxes.
The local taxes.
The town, the fire, the highway. Yep,
No county, no school.
correct. Yep,
So it's approximately $1,000 divided by the number, or approximately a total of $1,000.
that's correct.
Give or take.
Yep.
And have you put that proposal together, pen to paper, and given it to the board?
No, just verbal, we'll just make that payment.
And then the parking lot that everyone's concerned about, why are you calling it a limited use parking lot? And how are you gonna limit the use?
Right. We still haven't, that's still yet to be determined where the parking is. It's changed to limited from the first time we presented it because we're hearing this feedback. So I don't know what limited means, but the idea is that it won't be the main parking, and there are possibilities for what it could be.
The limited being the word here that really needs to be defined. To me anyway, what do you mean by that?
Right. We will define it at some point.
And then how will you limit that use once you define the limited use is a big question. And then the visitors, how do you know how many visitors you have at some of these other parcels?
Well, we have trail cameras up for one thing, and I'm up at our community forest 3 or 4 times a week. And I meet people out in the woods also. And so these are estimates based on that.
Is there a sign out?
Yeah. And there's also a sign-in sheet, yeah. And what I gave you for numbers was basic a weekend. The numbers are less during the week.
And they were counts of people.
Counts of people, not cars.
Not cars, so half of that, probably.
Jim? I just wanted to ask you a question. Now, we received this map last meeting or a meeting before. This was one of the original maps.
Right.
It's showing a limited parking on Stuffle Street. Now, this is the map that we got tonight.
Yep.
That's now showing a limited parking on Foster and no parking at all on Stuffle.
There's one in the middle.
Oh, yeah, there's no,
You took it away.
Mark the parking
yeah,
here.
so there's,
It's not here. On the map you gave us tonight.
but the map we gave you tonight has parking here and here on
Correct.
Stuffle.
Correct.
Yeah, this one shouldn't have been there in the first place. That's an area on Stuffle Street that's just not, I mean, the best you can do there is like put a shoulder on or something to park.
It was listed as limited.
It's, we shouldn't have sent that map. It was a map we had, and it was a last minute, let's give them a map when we send the letter. So, apologize, our bad for having that on that first map.
And all the maps are, none of the maps, as we've said, are anything final. They're
Work in progress.
work in progress.
Was that parking on next to Ingrid's house that you guys got rid of? Also?
No, that one is one that that's probably the best one because it's the shortest drive in. It's right near the beginning of the road, and it is close to a lot of the features. So putting that parking there will probably help a lot because people will just be able to go right there off of Route 2. But you can't build a big parking lot there. It's a small, 20 cars, maybe 12. I don't know what it is.
Bob and Charlene M. No questions?
Can I steal their question then? Can I steal it? Zach Sidley, Foster Road resident. I'm going to sit down.
Patrick?
Have you been in contact recently with the New York State Police about trespassers on your property?
No.
Because there's a marked state police presence on the street now. It like happened the week you guys closed. They started showing up on my property in the middle of the night to look for people that are supposedly using side-by-sides and snowmobiles on multiple properties, state land, and apparently they're using your property as a connector. So you've not been in contact with them?
Was not us.
Okay.
No.
Andy Johnson? Hi, Andy.
Hi. Just before my 3 minutes, just have a couple of procedural questions. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, and will the information from this meeting be brought to the planning board? Or is this going to be totally separate from what the planning board will receive?
This is separate from the planning board.
Okay.
So they'll have access to the.
They'll have access to the video.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the town board for holding this public forum to allow the voice of the people to be heard. I only hope the voices of those directly affected by this project do not fall on deaf ears and are not overshadowed by those who are not directly affected by the project or by those who wish to make this a political cause. This is not a political cause. My wife and I reside at 175 Foster Road, and approximately 80% of our property now abuts RPA property. We chose this property because of the house and the privacy it provides, being surrounded by forest. There have been problems over the years on this property that RPA owns now, with people parking on there late at night, playing loud music and having parties. Dumping of deer and pig carcasses next to the parking area, causing the smell of decomposing animals to permeate our property, increasing the coyote population, and causing family dogs to be attracted to the area. These and other problems will not go away now that RPA owns that property. Logging took many of the trees that within feet of our property line, opening up the forest so the proposed parking area and the driveway leading to it are now visible. The back of our house faces where the parking area will be and is visible from our deck and windows. We love our deck in the woods and wish to keep it private and not have to worry about seeing people in a parking area coming and going and coming onto our property. While at first glance, having forever wild areas adjacent to our property might seem that it would increase the property value, it will decrease the selling ability due to the visibility of the parking area and strangers coming and going from next to the residence. Our assessed value could increase because of this, and the county's known for that. I will end up paying more taxes because of the forever wild area, but will have no added benefits. For those that say there could be a house back there, that is very true, but they would be our neighbors, who would be more apt to take pride in their community and not have a steady flow of strangers and vehicles all hours of the day and night who don't know or care about our community. The past problems on this property will only increase in the number of occurrences and their severity once people from all over the region come here and see how secluded it is with no one to stop them. Everything we've heard so far is reactive and not proactive. We strongly desire that there not be a trailhead and parking area on Foster Road. I would suggest that if this falls on deaf ears and there must be a Foster Road access and parking area, that the town board and the planning board consider having no parking at the north end of the parking area where I can listen and hear everybody's voices at regular tones and a regular volume sitting on my deck. Allowing the area to be used only for special events and not general admission. Special events held to a limit of no more than 10 vehicles on the property. A locked gate to keep vehicles out during times of non-use. Signage for no parking along the roadway or anywhere other than the designated parking area. If it looks like shit, have a sign, too bad. No hunting on the property. There's 61 houses surrounding the property, where only 5 to 10 houses surround the other 2 community forests. No overnight camping and no open fires. Thank you for your time.
And thank you.
Thanks,
Do we have, just because Celia, you read really well and really fast, and Celia's trying to write all the stuff down, is there a way you can get that, your
Yeah.
request to us too?
Well, hey, I can hand everything to her, and I just want to stay with my 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
And Andy has been participating in the committee, so he's there at the table. And
Which, and nothing against anybody here, but a couple of the people from RPA were very disrespectful in the very first meeting we had, just to a couple of the people on Foster Road, which did not set the tone well.
Can I just, do you mind, is it okay if I just respond to one thing? I know there's been a couple of, I do a lot of like connecting with towns where we have these community forest committees, with the schools, with science teachers to get kids out on the land, to work with senior centers, I work with a group called the No Opiates Committee that works with families who have been affected by addiction, so like parents who have had their kids die because of overdoses and support families through that. So I work with a lot of just groups that are community-based, that are serving within the local community, and connecting to hear about what people want in these communities. And if you ask any of these communities, you know that we are a resource where we've had these established community forests. But it's going to be different for your community. So I'm really curious to hear both what you don't want, but also like, what can we do for Grafton? What can we do for this school here? What kind of education? Celia is the Rensselaer Youth Outdoors Coordinator, and she works with a lot of, she works with teens, helping them become leaders in the community. I've brought Girl Scouts out to the land, like I said. Jeff created a accessible trail, the first accessible trail in Rensselaer County over at the Postage Hill Community Forest, because we heard that was a need. There was not accessible nature in Rensselaer County. So I'm also curious about like, what would feed this community? What would nourish this community? We know that these open spaces are going to help with clean water and clean air in the area, which is something we all want, which is something about like living out in the countryside that we want to have for our kids. What else? you know, get in touch with me. Tell me if you want to connect, if you want to do something for the school, if you want to do something for your community groups. We'll make something happen. So it's about kind of co-dreaming together too.
What schools do you partner with currently?
We partner with.
So one of the projects that we ran over the summer was having not specific schools, but young people from different schools across the county come out to some of the community forests and learn how to maintain a trail, learn how to take water quality samples, learn about the ecology of the land. So right now it's not with a specific school, but it's an open invitation to Hoosick Falls. There were young people from there. Berlin, there were young people from there. Averill Park, there are young people. So it's the young people who are curious about this, who say, here's a place where I can hang out with other geeks, you know, to a certain degree. And we want to build capacity to work more with schools. And I think this is my first community meeting for a community forest. So there's a lot that's already possible that hasn't been possible for me at Post and Kill or at Albert. So, you know, it's a both and. It's like we aren't in the schools, but we are available to young people across the county.
Yeah, you guys mentioned working with schools before, and I had people ask me, and I've reached out to multiple schools and they've never heard of it.
So before COVID, there were a couple pilot projects in Berlin and Hoosick Falls where we worked with the 3rd grade in particular. So that was a very specific program. COVID is really, I mean, we're all struggling with it, especially the schools. So it's been challenging, as you may expect, to figure out how to support some of the schools.
Yeah, the other thing that we did was I worked with some of New York State's master teacher program to train them in working with kids to do nature-based activities. So we had like, I can't remember how many hours. It was like 5 or 8 hours of training about how they can take this information back to their schools and teach other teachers about how to do, you know, nature-based or outdoor learning too. So we tried, even through COVID, we tried to do a lot of virtual stuff.
Backpacks.
And we did some, nature backpacks that we gave out to the schools so that families could take out, like having like nature bingo and fun things for kids to be able to use in communities. That's something we're still working on with the library. So that was another sort of pilot program that we started before with like stocking the libraries with these nature backpacks that people in the community could take out. Another thing that Sand Lake really wanted to have was we have a whole section in their library of like nature-based books that people could take out for like all ages, so for little kids up to adults. And so that's been a really popular thing too. So it's kind of like what the community kind of comes to us with, or when we ask for feedback. And those were the things that were most meaningful at the time. And so that's kind of what we really hope to do here.
Okay, excuse me, we got to get back to these questions.
Donna Johnson?
So I thought that was just a sign-in. But I'm going to take my 3 minutes.
Absolutely. Go for it.
So I'm not prepared. These are kind of bullet points. I live on Foster Road. My husband, Andy, and I, our property, 80% is going to abut the proposed, but the RPA land. Obviously, we had very valid concerns to underline what both Andy and Michelle said. This was not the quality of life we moved to Foster Road for. This is not what we bought into. Our dream was to live quietly on a dead-end dirt road, away from the city. We both work in Albany. We're both very high-pressure jobs, and this is our retreat. Now, our concern is, and first off, I think what we need to do is really get to the crux of the definition of traffic on the road. I'm not so sure it's the actual traffic where the rubber meets the road, but the strangers that are now being invited to our backyard. Literally, my backyard. We're a very close-knit community. We're at each other's graduation parties, weddings, showers. We have social events throughout the year, very close-knit, and we feel that something happened to our property in our area that we have no control over. And it's being pushed onto us. Yes, the argument could be made that you could have a housing development back there. But you know what? That's gonna be their home too. They're gonna respect it. Of course, there'll be some that won't. But hopefully, if you own your own home, you have a respect for the community you live in. We don't feel that is going to be the cause, as you invite, because people that live on Foster Road or in the Grafton community, we don't have to drive someplace to go on a hike. 9 times out of 10, it's our backyard. We can take a walk and walk through the woods. And if we have the desire to go further than our own boundaries, we can go up to the state park. So now, who are the people you're bringing in? This property is much closer to the Albany and Troy area. That's a huge concern. Is it now going to be open and come one, come all from the Albany and Troy area? You know, it's free. You don't have to pay to go into the park. And what's going to happen? And I think that's what's driving our concerns, that we, you know, it's being shoved on us. You're bringing strangers literally into my backyard. You're proposing possibly having hunting. I don't know what your vetting process is for hunting. You know, how much experience do they have? Do they know where the boundaries are? I know none of that. You know, overnights, that scares the crap out of me. How are you gonna vet the people that are gonna spend the night next to my house? That's where directly in our backyard.
I know. If you do that, that's horrible.
That's
I'm telling you,
really
that's
where our
totally
concern is
rude
coming
and
from.
inconsiderate and unthoughtful and, yeah, if you do that.
And so, and the advantage you have here, we could actually hear everybody talking.
You could.
Yeah, we could hear just about every single word that was spoke, we could hear.
Okay.
And that's very true, because we can hear, not that we eavesdrop, but as we sit on our porch, we can, as people walk on the road, you can hear them. It's just the way our landscape is. So that's, I think those are really the crux of our concerns.
Yeah, well, let's stay in conversation on that, and I really appreciated Andy being involved, and I don't want to minimize, like, your concerns, but I do want to say that in our experience, some of the things that some of the concerns you have aren't what happened.
I'd like to interrupt you, but how many of those other areas have a parking area in somebody's backyard?
Yeah.
Parking area that large?
Well, I guess.
None, because I have the satellite images and none.
We're on road. You would say his road is pretty much that situation.
You talk about the other different forests, not.
Yeah, so there, I mean,
Can I just have?
we do have a property on the dead end road that I live on as well, just to.
So just one last comment to my 3 minutes. I think my comfort zone, as it was stated before, this is happening. You've purchased the property, you have good intention with that property, that's no doubt, no doubt. But our concern as a community is inviting the strangers to our backyard. If we could ask that Foster Road, and I'm sorry, Stoffel Street, if Foster Road could not be on your literature as a public parking place to enjoy this property, not on your website, not on your literature, but keep it as a special events. I think that's a fair compromise.
Okay, I think.
We're not gonna get everything we want. There's gotta be a compromise on this.
And I'm happy, I'm not gonna smell diesel fuel and have fires down there all the time, so that's the one plus about having RPA property.
There you go. Yeah, sorry.
Gary Ferrante?
I was just signing.
You're just signed, you all set? Bob Mayo?
I'm a 12-year resident of Grafton. I moved here because I wanted to live on a lake and be surrounded by forest, and I got that. And around the same time I joined their organization, I've been a member since. I think they do fabulous work. I go all their trails. I think all the trails in Grafton, I almost never see litter on the trails in Grafton. I can't speak for the beach at Grafton State Parks or the pavilions or the roads up over there, because I don't use them. I use the trails, and I don't see any litter. I think most of the, what I see are hikers like me, when they see something, they grab it and take it out. I take a 1.5 mile walk every day around my lake, and I rarely see litter, but when I do, I take it out. And when I visited their trails, always the same. First of all, virtually, I've probably been to their trails a dozen times, and I've maybe run into people, 5 or 6 people. You just don't see, I mean, you don't see a lot of people going to these places, and you don't see any litter. And that goes for the parking areas too. I was thinking about it, I would compare their community forest to probably the second biggest attraction in Grafton, the Peace Road, which I live 2 miles from, and I walk there all the time. I walk 2 miles from my house, and I walk through their trail. I go to the pagoda, I go around, I come out the dirt road. I don't see any litter, I don't see any problems. The people who support their organization and who go to their trails are the same kind of people who go to the Grafton Peace Pagoda. They're peace-loving, tree-hugging people. They aren't yahoos with a 6-pack beer and, you know, joints and things in their back pocket. So, I mean, I can't make any guarantees, but I just think, you know, you're getting all carried away with what happens at these places. Visit their forests, take a look at them.
Well, they got great places, but we've already got the problem of dumping and deer carcasses and everything else in my backyard.
Right.
That's not gonna go away because RPA bought it, it's gonna only increase.
Sure.
So stop telling me that all these other places are great. I know they are.
All right, so we got
Okay, well, I'm just telling you from my experience. And the other thing is, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't much in the town of Grafton in the way of zoning. You know, what would be the alternative? What is to stop something from going in this property, clear cutting the trees, taking the money for all the trees, and then putting in a quarry or a toxic waste dump or something else? I mean,
Well,
I don't think we have the zoning to prevent that.
Across the road
do we?
has deed restrictions on what can be there and what can't be.
Are they, so nothing can happen except build a house with a 5-acre lot, or what are the restrictions
I mean, I
specific?
haven't read it lately, but yeah.
I'm not aware myself of virtually any zoning restrictions in Grafton. I worry about it where we live. There's something that, a couple of years ago, somebody was talking about putting a dirt track or something. There was gonna be nothing to stop it. In the forest, they were gonna cut down the forest and put a dirt track over
We have the planning board, he had his hand up back there, probably responding to you.
Okay.
Specifically for single-family residents. No trailers, no double wides, no single wides, no commercial. Single-family residents. on that 6
Okay,
acres.
so,
Where does it
Tom,
say
what
no
is the
commercial?
alternative to a community forest? What could go in there?
In that wetland, not a heck of a lot. I mean, you could make, if you want to put a development in there, if you had millions of dollars to do it, you could.
Okay, so I guess that's the alternative.
That was a
Suburban
well-planned-
housing development or forest. I'd rather have the forest.
That was a well-planned development, you
Yeah.
put restricted deeds in there, protected.
Well, I mean, I don't live there, so I have a different perspective, but, I'm just telling you, I visiting their forest and the trails in Grafton that are in Grafton now, visiting in Peace Pagoda, I don't see the litter that everybody's talking about.
Todd, thank you. You're moving along right now. You want to respond?
Well, I just wanted to say, Andy, that, you know, the idea that that those things that are happening now aren't gonna get better, I don't know if that's really necessarily true. We've seen when we have people coming to our forests and there's a presence there, then those things don't happen anymore. So that might get better, but we can continue to talk about that.
Yeah, people were concerned because it was veterans' property, and some people didn't want to go down there, so they went to the end of Foster Road and up there. But
I mean, it's hard to be responsible.
Yeah. There is,
Most of those are locals.
Not a Foster, not from Foster
I live on
Road.
Dunham Road, and the locals drive down that road.
Oh, I guarantee that, I guarantee Big Carcass was probably very close to water.
there is a little example in which, so Barberville Falls has had a history of a lot of unsavory things in the past, and when RPA took over Barberville Falls, we were actually able to change what was going on there, and
that's what we're hopeful for here, believe me. I think RPA does a phenomenal job in other places. I don't understand how you're even gonna have trails on these logging trails, because you can't even walk on that, but God bless you.
We have a great trail to it. They'll figure it out.
Very hard work.
Just one other example is at the Post-Inco Community Forest, there was feedback from the neighbors that the trail crew put in was too close and that the neighbors could hear it, and so they moved the trail. So I think like this is good. This is information that helps us make decisions so that I don't want people in your backyard. You don't, I mean, like that's awkward.
And the other piece, you know, our dogs are used to living on a dead-end dirt road.
Right, yeah.
You know, once a COVID puppy, she hears a voice she doesn't recognize, she's off.
Right.
I'm sure you heard
Right.
words that you'd like to hear when I was taking the dog back.
Sound only travels one direction. It just goes toward you.
Is it Anthony?
Oh, this will be fun.
Anthony?
Yeah.
Oh, Anthony, how are you?
I'm okay with the comment.
You good?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, Chris, is it Chris? You want to go on? Yeah, BS, I thought so.
Yeah, most of the issues and talking points that I was going to bring up have been discussed, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. One thing I'd like to say, as a landowner, and as all of you as landowners, I know of no other landowner has asked his neighbors to sit down with them and to discuss what activities can be conducted on their property. So I think those people on Foster Road and Stuffle Street, if you do not have a representative on their committee, please volunteer, sit down with them, and let's have this discussion and work out a trail system that's going to be away from houses, usage that is not going to impact the communities that are on those roads. That's all I've got.
I'm happy to be on it, maybe I just didn't know that I had a scheduled time now in my life that I have no time to do anything more.
John, you want John Oliver?
Thank you. I originally had a question about taxes. Looking at my tax bill, personally, I prefer that you pay the school taxes than the property. There's going to be a sizable depletion of the tax base with this arrangement. But apparently, there's nothing that can be done about that I'm aware of. But I think that everyone should know that is really going to affect you long term. I don't live on Stuffle or Foster Road, but I share those folks' concern about people coming in. I live on private property, and people still come in when they feel like it, and never to do any good. We've got thefts and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is that your organization has no enforcement power legally. And so I think it's disingenuous for you to purport that you'll control these things or do something. And I just for the first time last week took the opportunity to drive up Foster Road. I've been on Stuffle Street before. Beautiful homes, people have invested a lot in their properties, and it's a very nice area. I hate to see that open up to the public, but as to my main concern was the tax issue. You know, we don't have a tax base, with the exception of residences in the town. And so, you know, it's something that's not going to be advantageous for the majority or all of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Nick Conrad.
I've lived on my property, I live in Grafton, my property has frontage on Stuffle Street, lived there for 20 years. Those who live on Stuffle Street know that I use the road a lot on foot. So I would say that I can't speak to the concerns of the parking on Foster Road, but in my unscientific impression, I have not, you know, been concerned about any increase in traffic on Stuffle Street over the years I've lived there. I want to confirm what people have said that on two fronts, that, you know, a property like this is going to attract people who are interested in hiking, and that's different than the people who are attracted to the state park for the beach. You know, I'm a hiker, and I can say that the hiking community is very respectful. I concur with people who say you don't see a lot of garbage on the trails in the county's parks and preserves. You know, I have to agree with that. And the other thing is, I'm also involved with the Rensselaer Land Trust, and I can say that, you know, once a property is owned by an organization that, you know, takes care of it and stewards it, it undergoes a great improvement from having an absentee owner who doesn't do anything. So I think the uses that you had under the previous owner, I think you'll see a marked improvement under the careful stewardship of a group like RPA. And I'm confident that RPA, you know, does care, and that they will make this community forest the asset for the community.
Thanks.
David Hunt.
David Hunt, J. Hicks Road in Grafton. I have one question I'll ask at the end for town officials. I mostly want to comment on traffic, parking, and noise. I'm going to encourage whoever makes the decision to be consistent. Here's the facts. On my road, there was a subdivision that went in about 1996. I was the only one making public comments. I mentioned about increased traffic on our road. The planning board chairperson, who was the person responsible for the subdivision, told me that doesn't matter, the town approved it. Meanwhile, on a daily basis, mining trucks came up with gravel, comes down the road 50 miles an hour, almost ran over my 2-year-old son that I was caretaking. But I learned to live with that. Major subdivisions that I spoke in encouragement of conserving forests were approved by the town on South Swan Pond Road and Taconic Lake Road. More traffic comes in there. One of my friends, former town council member Rick Angara, moved to Tennessee, confides in me that one of the reasons he moved is that another project was approved on Dunham Road. A lot of parking and noise kept him up. He and his wife moved. I was good friends with them, sad to see him leave. The biggest thing that I'm concerned of in my community, J. Hicks Road, was about 1996. That was the blowing up of Bunker Hill, the largest EIS public comments against the traffic in the state history of DEC. But the town essentially approved that. Now mining trucks are going down too constantly all the time. I've spent over $1,000 to replace my windshield, which has been broken 4 times by rocks coming off those trucks. Nothing you can do about it. I wasn't happy, but you live with it. So my question is, I'm just kind of curious, who's in charge of deciding what the parking lot goes in? Is it the town council, the planning board, the community? committee or RPA? I don't know.
The planning board. Yeah, I recommend everyone that's interested to go to the planning board meeting.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
That's it. Any comments?
That's it?
No, we have to get more.
David, thank you.
I thought that's what you said.
Ryan?
Yeah, thanks.
Reiner Gunter. I'm just absolutely amazed that my name's only come up once so far. Andy Johnson, thank you. Or my family name, I should say. And in direct response to that fire that I had on the property, like you said, the forest rangers or the DC threatened me. No, they fined me. I had 2 big fines. I sat in front of Judge Green. I don't know if she's still there. Yes, Judge Green made sure the fines were paid, so.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Yeah, it happened. I had so much to talk about, and figuring I'd be defending a lot more than I need to right now. But there's an underlying theme here that I've noticed is that youth programs. That's what sold me on the RPA 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, was their involvement for the youth. My kids were little at the time, they getting out in the woods. They all became environmental science majors because of my involvement with them in the woods. So what RPA is doing with their community forests, with youth groups, with youth programs, it's for your kids. It's not just other people's kids, it's for all of our kids. You guys can, if you don't want to walk on your dirty, dusty town road, you can now hike on this property. You've hiked on it before. When I owned it, I didn't mind. But now you're fully, you can go on it with your kids all you want. And I agree with Joe Lane. It is kind of like picking on the new kids on the block. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in town that we all just kind of look the other way. If you got an issue with town roads, town safeties, it's not up to RPA, it's up to the town. Tell the town. Tell the road superintendent that there's a bad turn on my road. You're talking about increased traffic on Foster's Road, how there's some blind turns. That road was approved by the planning board years ago as a development with little spaghetti strip lots, which you all own now. And now you're complaining about conserving land and the price of conserving land. Some people might get out there and hike in your backyard. Well, it's not your backyard, it's everyone's backyard. So
Okay, so my backyard doesn't care. I mean, I could hear you talking down there whenever you were.
I could hear you as well.
So.
I can hear you. I could.
Yeah, right, we don't live there. It's not your
Here's what I don't want this to happen.
No, I know.
We're just saying that the youth program with RPA is what really sold me. So, youth programs bring in families, bring in parents, driving their kids there. They're not the riffraff that you're worried about. There's going to be some people in the beginning that, oh, gee, maybe I can ride my side-by-side through there. Is there a snowmobile trail? Is there this? I want a snowmobile trail through the property. I'm an avid snowmobiler. I talked to Jim about it and said, no, we probably won't have snowmobiles. I said, oh, crap. I've snowmobiled there for 30 years, but it's the price we pay. I'd rather have hikers. Someone mentioned that the hikers and RPA and the people that get out there are a bunch of tree huggers. Well, yeah, they are. They are. And if they sold me 8, 9, 10 years ago on their commitment to what they do, they sold me, I said, no, they're tree huggers. I said, this might not be good. But they've swayed me. There's a balance that we all need to get to. And they're getting to that balance. And at first it's like, oh my God, we're having a state park all over again. We're not. We're not. You're going to see some increased traffic at first, but everything smooths out in the end, and there's a new project somewhere else that takes everybody's interest too, and our communities go back to the way they live. I live on the end of South Long Pond Road, a dead-end dirt road. It got developed into Sylvan Way, which has 25 more houses on it. We own that land. My parents sold that land and developed it. And I had to deal with the increased traffic. And I'm still dealing with the increased traffic. The town was going to improve the road. They never did. That's up to the town. It's not up to the people on Sylvan Way. It's up to the town. So I think This is good. This gets everyone together. I firmly believe that this should be taking place in front of the planning board. Town board, I think you overstepped your bounds. It should have just gone to the planning board. But that's okay, that's my opinion.
This is something that we wanted. Right. Not the board. The people who have an interest in this on Foster Road requested this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
Okay,
and
and
I'll jump on that too and say, we're here voluntarily to be here for you,
I
to
have
talk
one
to
more
you.
very important point.
5 minutes.
What she just said reminded me that I wanted to say this. What's going on in the Soviet Union and Ukraine right now, we couldn't do this. We'd be told, you just can't do this.
All right, that's time.
So we're lucky to be able to do this. We're lucky to be able to stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Let's applaud what we can do here.
I live on Old Road, Nelson Carlin. Born and raised here 83 years ago. My family's owned the house for way over 100 years. My concern, I don't have much of any concern except my family's had more interaction with coyotes since it's been going on. Yeah, I actually seen coyotes walking along the old road. I never saw that before. I hear them at night all my life. But all of a sudden, now I'm worried about my grandkids. Well, that was my only concern.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Nelson. Linda Hayes.
I printed this off of the RPA website, and it's concerning the Gundrum land. And I have a couple of questions. It says, this land will continue to be managed as a working forest. It's going to be supporting 96 jobs and 6 sawmills. This is from your website.
That is old.
I'm sorry?
That's old strategic plan. I don't, it sounds like that was conceptual for the entire
I
plateau.
just printed this off like 3 days ago. So my question is, when will the logging trucks start going down across the road? Because that parking area you want to use is probably the only area that they can go down.
Yeah. So some of our website has gone through some stages of updates and there's some old stuff on there. So the original concept for plateau conservation is that the plateau is a working forest overall. And so there are model sustainable forestry pockets of some of our community forests that we're supporting sustainable logging. It doesn't mean that this property doesn't have necessarily anything to do with that statement that you just saw.
So they won't be logging
So-
off of this property any longer?
It's the information that you printed off the site, I think, came from an economic study that someone did for us when we did our conservation plan.
Would you like to read it?
Yeah, let me see what it is, because I don't know what. It certainly isn't about this project.
It's the Gundrum land.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty.
So this is about the Grafton Forest that's sold to DEC. And it says that it supports a local forest economy that generates this much money and supports these jobs. So it's not saying it's supporting all those jobs. It's talking about the state forest that.
But if you read at the top, it's referencing the Gundrum property.
That's the other Gundrum property.
That's the other.
That's the one that's, yes.
Yeah.
And I think Dr. Gibbs already said that there will be no logging on this property.
Well, I don't know that we said that.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, you
Yes, she did.
Well, first you said there could possibly be, then you said there was not gonna be, and now we're back to you saying there could possibly be.
That question came
okay.
up because the other property they were allowed to log whenever they wanted to. That's when we asked about this property, if I'm not only gonna have people in my backyard, but now I'm gonna have public water back. And you said, no, there will be no logging on your property.
So Andy, I think I probably said, there's,
No, the second time, the second meeting, you said there would not be logging on the.
forever? Or did I say?
And so no logging on the property.
That is exactly what you said.
So
I
either the plan is to do logging as you need to, or there was no logging.
Here's what I think I said. That property is not gonna be logged anytime in the next 20 years. The forest needs to grow.
That was not what we were, but I do believe that the town board meeting was brought up, not 100% positive, was brought up in the committee.
Okay, well, at any rate, we can talk about what the logging that may or may not happen there. But it's been logged for years, so it wouldn't be a change, but
So basically, there will be logging.
No,
not necessarily.
And I'm happy RPA bought the property.
I
But
think-
I'm getting sick and tired of being told one thing and then something else.
Well, so with community.
You've got no plan for this property.
We're developing it.
The community forest model is such that the committee comes up with, if the committee decides they want to do a model forestry, it's a small project. It's not one that comes in with like 5 logging trucks and is selling logs for lots of money. It's for
That's not what was
it's for education. But it would only happen if the committee decided to do it. So the reason we don't know yet is.
Committee that has no voting powers by your bylaws.
No, the community forest committees are different than like our board decisions. It's a totally different thing. The community forest committees are their own thing. They don't, the bylaws don't really have anything to do with them. But the decisions are made in that group to do a project, if the group decided to do logging, it would be because the group decided to do it, not because we were gonna make money off of it or something like that.
Whatever, it'll change next week, I'm sure. Sick and tired of it.
Levin? It says Levin. Kathy Tracy?
I was just signing in, but I'm going to talk. I live on a dirt road, and it's a private road, and we've had deer carcasses dumped there too, so, we live in Grafton. I think that's just going to happen. I love, but I don't think what they're doing is going to increase any sticking back. I love hiking. I'm one of those tree hikers. I think what people have said about hikers is true. We don't litter, we do pick up, we bring our children, we love nature. And I think, I don't know, I think we should share nature with each other. Because it's just so good for all of us. That's all.
Thank you. Rachel, how you like this?
Sure. It's been interesting to hear you. I live on South Long Pond Road with these guys. And I liked what this committee model for the forest, so that some of these ideas have a place, is a pretty, it's just a neat opportunity. And I liked, Molly, when you commented about what are the opportunities out of the forest? And what would we like out of that forest here in Grafton? And so there's been some discussion about how the committees work and how can people stay involved and get their ideas in and join the committee. Either join the committee, or if you don't have time for the committee, how can people keep their ideas going? Because the plan, one thing that I do know of the community forest is that what happens on that forest is very much devised by who's in that, is by the committee and by the discussions that they have. And so if the committee wants to put in a little nature area for children, then that's a plan, and then the RPA board will then supports that plan. They haven't turned down ideas. So there's all sorts of opportunities that could happen on the community forest too, as well as bringing concerns and figuring out exactly how to, sort out proximity that's too close with traffic or something. So that's
I'm sorry. Maybe you have to explain the difference between, maybe define the community forest and how the committee is different from RPA. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know that, but maybe other people don't understand about that.
On the sheet, there's a little blurb down here. What is a community forest? So we knew that is a funny word, right? Like usually we hear preserve or park or something. But this is actually a term. We also have been throwing around some jargon. I'm not from the conservation world, so model logging. I'm like, what is that? So, and community forest is a word that comes from the conservation community. It's the idea that these protected lands are managed by the community. There are opportunities for all these kinds of either activities for walking, hiking, education, volunteer engagement. But a lot of these old parks or preserves, the way conservation used to be done, it was just about taking the land aside and keeping it without people, just thinking about the land is just there, but we know that people are going to want to come to it, and the reason why we have all of you here today is to talk about that, instead of just saying we'll have the land there and nobody has to say so. So that's if you want to know a little bit more, or you can Google that term.
And I'll just add one thing that I think is the logging, not logging, logging, not logging, back and forth. It's hard to say anything definitive because it is committee-led. And so that's where Jim is not the decider. He's not the final straw on something. So I'm 100% in favor of consistency of when someone says something that feels funny, but I think that's maybe where it's getting a little bit confusing is this crew can't say this is what's going to happen because there's a committee that's going to have influence over that. And that's what's unique about this opportunity. It's not a state park, it's not a preserve, it's not a blind face putting this in. It's a group of people who are going to try and make decisions together.
And part of the community forest model is that it's actually it's a program of the U.S. Forest Service. So some of the funding that helps us to conserve the land is asking us to do it in this way, to engage the community in this way. So it's actually part of it's actually required, but we do it because we know that conservation works better when we engage with the community.
Chris Rowe? He just left? Yep. We have somebody back here that asked me if they could speak.
David Buckley. I just wanted to say that the town of Grafton is one of 2 towns in the county that don't have zoning. We also live in the 5th largest unfragmented forest in the state of New York. I personally want to thank the Gundry family and the RPA for doing what they're doing instead of the Gundry family selling this to a mining company or a developer. And I think the issues that have been brought up by the Foster Road folks need to be mitigated. And the proper venue for that is the planning board. We also live in a town that has strict property rights, property owners' rights. Well, that changed when the Gundry family sold this to them. And they're the ones who can get to determine what they want to do with it. We're very lucky to be having them share it with us, and I'm grateful for that. When it comes to the state park, the Dyken Pond Environmental Center, which Pierce is very familiar with it, those make up this unfragmented forest that we live in. And someone brought up the coyotes and all the animals we see now. When I was a kid, I never saw a bear. I didn't see a bear until I moved it. I grew up at 43 years old, I saw a bear. So the things we're doing here are working, and that is why they're coming back. And these are the things that we're doing, plans like this, people working together and talking these issues out so that they can be mitigated before they have to be mitigated. So the proper venue to talk about these issues is going to be the planning board. But it's also important to note that we have qualified people in the absence of zoning on this planning board because we are in control of our own destiny. And in the absence of not having zoning, the planning board is the answer. So if there are folks who need to sit on this planning board and who are qualified, this is where it's mitigated. So I applaud the RPA, I applaud the Gundry family, and I applaud everyone for getting their 2 cents worth in, because that is where we're going to settle this. This is a good thing. I don't see anything bad about it. Congratulations, and let's keep doing what we're doing to a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it on my list. I don't think there's anyone else want to say something. Go ahead.
Just real quickly, I do live on Foster Road, and I just wanted to point out that Foster Road is a little tricky because you're misled at first, because there is just a nice straightaway with wide open site distance at first. And then all of a sudden, you have a horizontal curve combined with a vertical curve with trees right up on the edge, and there's no site distance. So people who don't, that's a valid concern they bring up, is that people who know the road, and we have a lot of people walking on it. My kids are in college now, but when they were young, I would send them out on their bikes. It's something we would, we're happy to encourage people to do that. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. But the problem is when you come around that curve, people who don't know it's there, they're going fast already. And they slow down once it's too late once they come around, because you can't see what's coming around those curves. So that's just one thing. So I think we just need to think about, I'm happy actually with what you're doing with the land, I'm supportive of that, but I think the parking needs to be addressed. One question, how many people are you expecting on these larger events?
Let's see, how many people do we get how many people do you get how many cars do you get per line?
10, 15, one
Right.
time we had.
Okay. So the Tom Wessels program is like a big one, and we'll get 30 people, but some people come in multiple cars or something.
Okay,
So that's
my point
once a
being-
year.
Right. So my point being is you said that parking on Stuffle Street, which is closer to Route 2, they don't go past all the houses. You said, I think you said the maximum is 20, is what you had just said.
I want to make sure it's.
You said that like 20 was the capacity at the Stuffle Street parking. That's what you had said earlier.
Yeah, I think.
So I think you're close. I mean, why can't we? You got Creighton Manning on board. Why don't you have him take a look? Maybe we expand that parking. All these problems go away.
Yeah, I think we're shoehorning it in to get 20, but we'll definitely look at that.
And my only other point is, please no hunting. I have deer in my backyard. All I need is some Yahoo shooting in my backyard at the deer. So if you could, I would appreciate that.
Andy brought that up. We've got some hunters standing in the back of the room too.
It's just the proximity of your property. I'm not.
There was a conversation at the last committee meeting about that, and the committee made the decision, no hunting for the first year till we get this stuff figured out. But then there was conversation about whether there's shotguns and not rifles and things. So the committee is hearing that and wants to they want to respect the.
Well, look, I'm on the board of directors for the RCCA, the Rensselaer County Conservation Alliance, also Trial Limited. So Frank is left, unfortunately, the president. And we have some concerns about the fact that, there's big chunks of Rensselaer County being eaten up not for bad, I mean, these are good things that you're doing, but just hikers? I mean, traditionally, I know half a dozen people that live in Grafton. I've been up here my entire life that deer hunt over towards Stuffle Street, the backside of Foster Road, over in the backside of the park. I worked at Grafton in the 70s. I used to be able to trap in the state park. Can't trap in the state park anymore. Okay? This gentleman was wondering about coyotes. If he could trap in the state park, maybe there wouldn't be so many coyotes. Okay? We're just concerned about, limiting the broad spectrum of uses for the properties. Okay? It appears that a lot of people they don't like hunters. I gotta be honest, there's a lot of asshole hunters out there. Absolutely. I don't like most hunters. I'll be honest, because they're a pain in the ass. They give us a bad name. I had a conversation with you about turkey hunting. That's my passion. And those are areas that we went into the Gundrum property 15, 20 years ago. Turkey hunting. Had a good time, didn't bother anybody, took a bird home. And these are things that we're concerned about.
So I think that the thing is we're hearing from both sides. I think we need to get everybody in the room together and make sure that it's safe. And, and consider that and consider what other people want to see.
Which we have done at the other two community forests, and we have hunting, and we have doe permits, and it's limited and controlled.
Okay.
It's allowed.
Well, and we don't know that. I mean,
I'm just telling you
that's one of the things that we're not aware of.
Right.
And it's,
How do you have limited control of it if nobody's down there? What
Well,
they're
the
done to
people that have permission limit it because they don't want other people hunting on the property where they've been permission to hunt. The same way any private property is limited.
So you're expecting people to just follow the rules?
When I wanted to go on that property to hunt, I went and talked to RG and asked him for permission to go hunt the property and duck off the pond. He told me, don't shoot my beavers and take out whatever you bring in.
But how do you know there's going to be, 30 people down there?
Because the people who have permission don't want a lot of other people that don't have permission, and they are going to help enforce the rules. Just like all the other rules we've talked about, the people that are using the property want to use it the way they're allowed to, and when other people are breaking the rules, they actually help enforce those rules.
Yeah.
So right now, there's nobody out there controlling the hunting, very limited. There's going to be a lot more people out there controlling the hunting, both hunters and non-hunters.
No, the Gundrums are controlling.
There are going to be more bodies than the Gundrums have on the property.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I don't think it's helpful.
We have a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
And I have, in the last meeting, you acknowledged the fact that you have a religious Indian site on that property. What are you going to do to protect that? And have you notified the Indians?
Yes, we've been in contact with the Bonnie Hartley, the Stockbridge Muncie Community Historian here in Rensselaer County. We have a plan to get her out to see it.
Is she
Wasn't
part of
aware-
the
she
Indian
wasn't
tribe?
aware of
She was
it?
not aware of it before, but she wanted to wait until the snow melted and the weather warmed a little bit. And then we will involve them in that.
But is she part of the tribe?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's the historic preservation manager.
Yeah, I just didn't want to see it destroyed.
Yeah.
No, we don't want that.
Jim, could I make a little request? We were very interested in the history of our properties, all of them. And on this one, in the 1861 county map, I've identified G.J. Coonrod, H. Simmons, A. Wilson, and J. Turner as having farms in that area. So if there's anybody who has information about these farms, or these people, these families, we'd sure appreciate your getting in touch with us. Also, within our deed, I noticed titles, the Beaver Dam Road, or the Beaver Dam Pond,
Beaver Dam Brook. There's a sawmill mentioned. And there's also Sage Road. If anybody knows what Sage Road was, we'd sure appreciate knowing that, because we like to incorporate these historical items into our trail system.
Yeah, the house I live in was built in 1786.
Pardon me?
My house was built in 1786 that I live in, and this part of where you're talking about.
I'd like to talk to you.
Where do you live?
On Old Road.
Anybody else with questions?
There's one over here. Pierce.
What?
Oh, he can go first. Go ahead.
So, this is a question from like a fire rescue standpoint. What's your plans with the two ponds that are back there? Are you gonna have like restrictions on swimming, ice fishing? Because at least with the state park, if someone falls through the ice down there, there's easy access to most of the ponds. If I gotta go rescue someone out of the ice down there, that's not gonna be easy path to get to, and someone falling in frozen water will have that much time to go get rescued. So is there gonna be some way to prevent people from swimming down there, going on the ice, and fall through?
We make a note of that. Look, we had some people in there over the summer that they noticed some water chestnuts, and they went in to clean them out. And they got in the water, and they came out, I don't know if this is quite accurate, but I don't know if covered with leeches or having a lot of leeches was what they said. So I think that the pond is going to be self-controlling as far as swimming goes. And, yeah, we didn't think about ice fishing before, so we'll make it go.
Hey, if someone falls through that, by the time we get there, those trails, we'll be that's good as that.
Will this recording be posted anywhere? Will be on the town website?
What's that?
The recording of this, will this be on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
If my website can hold it.
All right,
But it will be on Facebook. Yes, I just have a comment. And it's gonna sound a little rude, but I'm sorry. But I think where you guys got off on the wrong foot, you just assumed that people were gonna be welcoming. And there was no conversation about this purchase. There was nothing out there for the people. All of a sudden, they get a letter. We bought this, and this is our game plan. I think that is the worst mistake you guys made. Because up here, we deal honest and face-to-face with each other. We don't like playing games. And I think that is where you guys made your original mistake. I'm for hiking. I am for hunting and conserving land. I have no problem with that. But myself personal, and I think just about everybody in this room is the same way, we like to be dealt with face to face. We don't want some letter after it's already happened. We want to know up front. We want to say, oh, well, RPA is looking at this piece of property. This is kind of the plans. Let's talk before we're sitting here with these people. We're like, oh my God, you're in my backyard and you're coming 35 miles, 40 miles an hour down my road. I think that's where you guys made your first ultimate mistake with the town.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with your conservation principles and stuff.
Yeah.
That just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was good. So we have one more for a very short comment. It's 9 o'clock and...
Question, not comment.
Okay.
Jim, you have a management plan for property?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that wasn't mentioned, and I just think it's important for people to understand here that you're going to have a written management plan because you're accredited land trust. And it's one of the requirements for land trust to basically have a plan for the property, and you know, that the committee is coming together to try to decide how this property is going to be managed. And from there, it's written into the document, management plan for the property.
So, all right. Thank you, John.